on this cold evening. Hold on one second. Clear this off my screen. Hope everybody had a good holiday with your family, making new memories, and I hope Santa brought you everything that you desire. I'm Marcie Keithley, of course. I know most of you here this evening, but for those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome, welcome. We also have fellow board members Jennifer Falsing, Beth Story, Barbara Robertson as a board member. Who else do we have with us tonight? Anybody else that I miss? Dave is not here tonight. Okay, I think that's all for right now. So before I introduce our guests for the evening, Jennifer, I think we have a...
Which one do you want to go with, our year in review?
I'll just follow you.
Okay, let's do this one first.
This is pretty exciting. I don't know how many of you have seen this, but this is our year in review. And check it out. In 2021, we hosted 118 events with 4,513 unique attendees from all around the globe. And 802 of those were first-time attendees of NAAP for any event. That's our first year. So we're pretty proud of that, and we wanted to just do a few minutes of bragging. And we appreciate all of you being supportive of this happy hour and other events. We thank you for your year-end contributions and your continued support. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you so much. Okay, this is our disclosure, of course. If you do have a question during the presentation, you're welcome to raise your virtual hand to be recognized. You're free to post comments and questions. This is a public meeting with no guarantee that information or identity is confidential. Portions of this event are recorded and shared on our YouTube channel. So if you're experiencing a serious mental health event or suicidal thoughts, please contact a licensed professional at the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Okay, thank you. All right, so these two I don't think need any introduction, but we'll go ahead and just brag about them for a little bit before we dig in. We have Barbara Robertson from Ohio. She is an Ohio-born New York adoptee who received a copy of her original birth certificate after new legislation took effect in March of 2015. And since then, she's been able to discover her origins and establish contact with both sides of her family. She's a strong advocate for adoptee rights, volunteering her time, providing online education and support to all members of the adoption constellation. Barbara serves in the capacity of a board member for NAAP, not only a board member, but an advisory council member. So we're very fortunate to have Barbara. Our facilitator for this evening is Krysia Orlowski, and she's both a sibling to 2 adoptees and an adoptive parent. In 2015, she joined the board at Adoption Network Cleveland, seizing the opportunity to give back to the adoption community. She's an advocate for adoption, focused on supporting transracial families, and is specifically concerned about the gap in support for youth being raised by parents of a different race and the lack of training and support these parents receive. So we're very, very excited to have these 2 beautiful ladies with us this evening. Welcome, Barb and Krysia.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? Okay. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. It's really good to see everybody. I mean, Happy New Year and all of that. And I've got to say that we're very honored to be able to just hold this space to talk about such a wonderful show like This Is Us, which is now in its 6th season. The first show that aired for the 6th season was on Tuesday, I believe, or Tuesday of this week. And I know sometimes if you don't get it live, you get it the next day. So it was anxiously awaited and anticipated. And I look forward to talking about the show with you guys today. So what we're going to do is, in the beginning, we're going to just kind of just go over the show and I would like, Jennifer, do I have a share? Can I share my screen?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I'm going to do that just to create a visual. Can everybody see that? Fantastic, thank you. So this is us, season 6. Hang on. Let me stop the share for a second, because what I wanted to do was to get a poll, show, just either put it in the chat or, you could say it. We wanted to see if there's somebody here who's never seen the show and you just logged on to have, to join us tonight.
You can put that in the chat too, if you've never seen the show, if you don't want to raise your,
I
Phil.
haven't, but I know what it is.
Okay, so that's good. Marcie and Judith, nice. And thank you for Jennifer Room, who says she's seen them all. And then we've got Kathy chiming in that she didn't see the new season yet. Tammy is also a newcomer to the This Is Us forum land here. Okay, so we've gotten people who watched, Robin's another, watched them all, and Renisha's seen most. So I'm going to warn you that there may be some spoilers. And, so if you're okay with that, that's fine. We're going to get spoilers. Also, it's possible that there may be triggers, just because this type of show has been known to generate discussions and it can go in ways that makes it organic for the people that are joined that talk about it. So I thank you guys for joining us in this space, and we just want to create it a safe, comfortable space for you to share. So thank you. Now back to sharing the screen. Okay. So as Marcie has introduced us, thank you very much for that. That's not only am I a reunited adoptee, but I've also, how my adoption story, the journey for my reuniting started actually around the same time that This Is Us started. So I want to share with you the impact that it had, and when in 2015, the Ohio adoptees that didn't have copy or access to their birth certificates were finally able to do that. Picture and imagine that me, after 50 years, I will just put that out there, of not knowing anything and having closed doors, no possibility of knowing, all of a sudden, that piece of legislation allowed me to see a copy of my birth certificate and the name of my birth mother for the very first time. And for me, it was impactful because of not having any information to fill in. I was adopted as a baby, and also I always knew that I was adopted, but we never talked about it. And so when the show started coming on then in 2016, it was right at the beginning of me connecting with my biological mother and starting the journey to reunion and all of the feelings and emotions that I didn't even expect to have. So to say that this type of show was very needed for me to travel this journey, to open the doors, to get out of the fog, is an understatement. So that's part of my story. Krysia?
Hi, I'm sorry. I sent out the message, nobody should interrupt me, and I've just been interrupted already.
In addition,
So sorry, I'm just like, oh. Yeah, I started watching this show when it first started, and my own background is growing up in a family. I have two siblings who were adopted into our family, and they are Indigenous people. So we were a multicultural family growing up, and they were adopted by Polish immigrants, which is the other really like talk about layers of culture and experience and trauma coming together in one place. And so that was a whole, world experience. And then I became an adoptive parent in 2008. And this show, it tugs a little too much at the heartstrings. I'm just like, how much more can I cry and scream? But every time I watch an episode, I'm just like, oh my God, yes, that's what it's like, and to see the siblings of an adoptee portrayed in a show in such a complex and nuanced way, to show the adoptive parents and to show the journey of Randall, this adoptee, for me, it's just a very powerful show. And I cry all the time when I watch it. So when Barbara and I started doing these is it a year ago already that we've been doing this? We've been running a regular, during the season, we run a regular monthly discussion group through Adoption Network Cleveland, which everybody here is going to be welcome to join. And we can get you that information because we're meeting, I think, in 3 weeks for our first one to discuss at the end of January. It was just so exciting for me to have somebody else to sit down and talk and rail and scream about this show with. So, but what I love about the show too is just the way that it's enabled people to engage in the conversations around adoption, around trauma, whether it's lived or within the adoption world, and how that engages us in being able to actually talk about it. I mean, we have a launching pad for that, and that's just a very powerful thing. Some of the acting flaws aside, it's a very powerful thing. So I think we were going to do we want to do the poll of favorite characters, or was that later? I couldn't remember how we were doing it.
Oh, well, our poll was actually something well, you know what? It was asking people what part of the constellation they were part of.
Right, that's right.
Yeah.
So if people want to participate in the poll, these are your general categories, of which there are so many. We often talk so much about the adoption triad, but clearly it's a many-armed tree here. And you can just put it in there and we can get a sense of who's in the room.
Yeah. And thank you that you mentioned triad, because vocabulary over time evolves. So now it's we use, instead of triad, we say constellation. So that's what we mean. And to be honest with you, if someone knows the origin of the switch, of who first used that term constellation in the adoption literature, if we were doing a giveaway, you could win. It was you could win a prize for coming up with the right answer. So do we have, let me take this down for a moment. So if you looked at all the categories, do we have anyone in the room that's not an adoptee?
Besides me.
Yes, besides Krysia. So you got Marcie Keithley, Gail Swift, and
a couple of birth parents in the room too.
Excellent. Thank you for that. We've got 2 pages of people, which is nice.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I just can't find the chat button while I'm driving. I'm an adoptee from Indiana. So I guess, yeah, currently live in Alaska.
Yes, that was not a response. Oh, okay, so Marcie, look, can I ask you a question? Are you in Alaska because of any of your adoptee origins, or is that completely different?
Yes, my adopted parents moved here back in '72. I have a similar story to yours, that I didn't know anything really until 2018 when Indiana opened up their laws. And I was able to get information about my birth father. He had already passed away, but all of a sudden I had tons of sisters and an extended family. And wow. So, but I still live in Alaska. I just got back from Indiana, from seeing them and getting overwhelmed, of course. So that is just, yeah. Marcie can tell you I've got a huge story, but that's the basic brunt of it.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And also, you know, reminding us how we've come post holidays right now. And maybe many of us, if we were able to get together and, you know, either virtually or in person with family members, or just feeling the absence of not being able to get together, you know, those feelings pretty much stir up around this time more stronger than most times of the year, except maybe birthdays and other significant holiday events. So, you know, thank you for sharing that part with us. So, yeah, as we're all part of the constellation, one of the things that hits it, especially in this show, is that, you know, there are parts of it in which maybe we weren't aware of because we are sitting where we are. For me as an adoptee, admittedly, and Krysia and I talked about this because she has the position of being an adoptive mother, you know, that as I'm processing my journey, then it feels almost like like I have to almost protect myself from an adoptive parent, because I don't know how I was going to feel. And it was difficult to feel the loyalties and knowing that you love the parents, but then you also have these feelings that you didn't know that was going to come up. So with that being said, it's what we're going to start segueing to discussing when we're talking about This Is Us. Because for those who kind of know the show and, you know, have maybe not seen a lot of the episodes, This Is Us focuses on a couple, their triplet children, and the challenges they face as they navigate life, depicting the family across different timelines. And the great part about the show is the way that they use the device of, you know, the show, 60 minutes. You're not just seeing just one timeline, you're seeing these characters in multiple timelines as children on up until old age at this point. Well, at least what they call flash forward, where you're seeing the future. So it's been a really interesting way of looking at it, because we know that, you know, like I talk about my feelings, but it's like the threads that can start when you're small or even before you're born. And we've gotten an idea of how that can manifest itself when it comes to what families are dealing with. So I wanted to give you a visual too of the cast and crew. This is what they look like without the makeup and without the, you know, the past, present, and futures. And this is the back in the earlier season, because in this picture, and I'm just for those who aren't able to see at this point, it's Rebecca and Jack, the parents, and you've got the three siblings. You've got Kate, Randall, and Kevin, and you've got the significant others, spouses. You've got Beth, who's married to Randall. You've got Toby, who's married to Kate. And you've got, let's see, in this particular picture, you have the people who are the director, creator, and also you see William, who was the birth father of Randall. And that's how the show started, with that confrontation at the very beginning of Randall meeting his father. And this is just a list of the people who are the actors that play the different characters. And also, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot about Miguel. Miguel, who is also later married to Rebecca. He also is represented. Now, with season 6, we now have this family tree. So now we've started with, before we started with the parents of Rebecca and Jack, and ending with the new additions to the Pearson household, the babies. So, and we may come back to that just to get to talk about it in a visual way again. And then how adoption shows up in this family. It's the transracial adoption, which is Randall, African-American, born on the same day as the triplets, but then he joins the family upon the death of the son. There was a triplet son that died. The foster to adopt, because Randall and Beth adopt Deja, which is an older child from foster care. And then the infant adoption, which is open private adoption, that Kate and Toby were matched with a prospective first mother, and they adopt baby girl Haley. They also have their own child, Jack, who was, their biological son. Okay, so in this, just kicking off season 6, it's the big 3, and they're turning 41. And when the show started, they were 36. So it's been 5 years. We've been in the Pearson household universe, and now they're turning 41. And we're starting to see that perhaps there's some adulting that they're doing that they weren't before. And with that, there's some interesting issues that are coming up. And one of them that Krysia and I talked about, and I'm going to lob it over to her, is part of what the bullet points of adulting: the parenting, the aging parent, and the processing the childhood responses to the life events.
Yeah, this was a big one. Yeah, sorry, I'm a little flustered for a moment. I lost my dad this year. So this storyline and the way that it came up really kind of hit me hard when I watched on Tuesday night, Wednesday. Well, actually, I watched Wednesday morning because I watched it on Hulu. But the whole process of watching a parent go through something like that. And then my mom almost also died this summer. Thankfully, she pulled through. But just, as me and my siblings and I were coming together and dealing with this and finding ourselves in this position of, parenting our parents and watching them go through this and realizing, oh my God, this is really here. Like, the idea that, and I was dividing time between my home with my 3 teenagers and my parents. And, a lot of adoption stuff came up too around all of this. It was so seeing this episode and when Kevin was like, wow, this is really happening. I was like, yes, oh my gosh, yes, this is really happening. And so one of the things I love about this show is, like, all along is, this is very clearly, this is a show about trauma. This is a show about how does trauma affect us and how do we carry trauma and how do we respond to life, coming from that trauma, whether it's, imprinted trauma from being an adoptee or, having your parent die when you're teenagers, or or watching a parent go through a horrible experience, and then how we process that and how that affects ourselves and our relationships and our own parenting and our families in the future. And I thought this episode just did such a brilliant job of showing us that, you know, here are these 40 something adults and seeing them struggle and continue to carry the weight of and how their responses to what's happening with their mother and what's happening at this moment has been informed by these experiences when they were younger, and how that imprinted on them. I would love to open it up to the floor a little bit though too, and kind of get a sense of what people how people felt and responded as they were watching this episode this month in terms of this theme. You can just click or raise your hand, or you can just speak up too, however you want to jump in. If you don't feel comfortable speaking, you can also just stick it in the chat.
It looks like David put his hand up, and then I see Lori, and let me click over to the second. Okay, so those are the first two so far. Oh, wait, hang on. Okay, David, you're first. Lori Nicely, you're next. I hope I said that right. And then Robin.
Okay, hi, I'm Dave. You know, I tend to have to like watch the episodes over again for everything to really kind of hit me, like to experience everything. So I'm not necessarily going to comment on this episode, but I just wanted to make a comment that, you know, I lost my adoptive father last December, not 2 months, like a year ago, a little over a year ago. And I wasn't working at the time, and I kind of was trying to be strong for my mom and, you know, what she was going through. And so when I got back to my apartment in New York City, my family lives in New Jersey, I wasn't working. I watched every episode from the very beginning, and I just cried so much. And it kind of like how you laid out in that slide there, it's all of these things that happen, like, you know, when you in the adulting phase, or, you know, as an adult, that, you know, like nothing was very like specifically related to my life or my situation, like specifically, but everything, of course, all the, you know, everything that they touched on, the feelings and the emotions, and it just helped me like grieve the loss of my father, which I wasn't able to do in the moment, you know, when I was trying to console my mom and plan for the funeral arrangements and take care of all of like the finances and everything that my mom like never really did. My dad did that. So it just helped so much to for me to just let all of my feelings out that I was like holding in when I was trying to be the strong one.
Yeah, thank you for that, David. Lori? You're on mute.
Okay. Sorry, you guys. I'm working while listening to you guys. This Is Us. I'm an adoptee. And I've watched This Is Us from day one. No idea that it dealt with adoptees. When Randall knocked on the door to meet his dad, man, that took me to the floor. I mean, I was already on the couch, but you know, so I have two siblings. I'm the middle child. I have two siblings, older, younger, that are biological of my parents. So the aspect of course, my siblings are not twins, but the aspect of having siblings that are biological to your parents, and a lot of the feelings that Randall's and thoughts that he has, I swear the writers are reading my mind 90% of the time. But particularly the episode yesterday or Tuesday, this week, had a whole nother aspect to it, because I am now caregiving for my parents. They are not in my household. They are in a care facility. That has happened in the last 6 months, dealing with dementia issues and financial issues, having to make decisions. And so this past Tuesday, it really hit me on that level of how they're also able to portray Beth and her struggle to hold on, because I see that in my dad. And oh man, it just hit me in a whole nother level on that, along with what Randall is dealing with, how us 3 siblings handle stuff differently. And a third thing that it affects is how, of course, my birth father is deceased. My birth mother doesn't want to have anything to do with me. But because of my parents, my mom and dad's both diminished health and cognitive ability, I have not discussed finding my origins with my adoptive parents, because I do not want to, and it's stupid. I don't want to, I guess it's stupid, don't want to add to their anxiety or their problems, so, and that was at the very end of season 5. So that's why, to me, This Is Us hits on so many levels of real life. And that's how I relate to it. I think I answered the question, right?
Yeah, you sure did, Lori. And thanks for bringing all of those things up, because number one, I want to interject here by saying, when it comes to caring for our parents, as they're getting older, as we're getting older, some of us have become parents. So then now we're taking care of, or we're like literally in the role that they were in when they were raising us.
Yes.
But then now I liken it to the roller coaster, that, how you're in the car and you're starting to go up that, big slope, but you're still down here. So it doesn't affect you as much as the people that are about to go over that mountain up there. So you're like, okay, I'm still good. Yeah, this ride's not bad, and then you get closer and closer to the top. And it's like, now it's your turn to go down that huge drop. So I liken that to the way that I felt when I didn't have to worry about my own mortality. There was always going to be at least 2 or 3 other generations ahead of me that were going to go up that mountain and go down first. So I'm still good. But then as they began to get ill, and I had to step in to take care of them and their personal effects, it was surreal, because now I had to think about my own self, that, oh, I'm the adult now. And oh, wow, it's me now that the buck stops at. I'm going to have to be the one to make the decisions. But wait a minute. I thought we weren't supposed to be in our grown parents' business. Remember that, people? I'm not supposed to be interfering with their stuff or making decisions. Wait, what am I doing? I'm a kid.
I have 2 sets of parents who are still saying to me, we don't want you in our business. And I'm like, but I have to be in your business. I don't want to be there either. But oh my God, yeah. I was like, when did I felt like I've adopted 2 children that don't realize that they're children.
Well put, Lori, well put. So I'm going to segue over. Who is next? I think it was it Robin that was next? Wait, hold on a second. Okay, please unmute and go for it.
You're still on. There you go.
Okay, now I'm on where you can hear me. I've been watching the show since it began. I have felt all along there must be an adoptee among the writers, because the topics that they touch on every time is so realistic to what it feels like to be an adoptee. I'm thrilled to see that they were showing Rebecca as not like this perfect saint savior, but some of the difficulties that she's had, the fact that she's lied or been less than truthful with Randall, the layers that he's had to deal with because he's very protective of her and he feels like he's the only one in the family that's protective of her. And yet he's also had to deal with his own anger and frustration at the fact she hid that she knew who his father was. And so it's just every week and every season has been like another layer of how it feels. And then this last season, when they finally dug into the transracial adoptee part, and I only know about that mostly from my adoptee community, talking about that, learning about that. I was so happy to see that, but it was interesting. I get on the, you know, the Facebook pages that talk about this show, and all the same stuff comes up from non-adoptees that Randall is lucky. They saved him. He has no reason, right? He has no reason to be upset. How dare he be mad at Rebecca? How dare he have, and I'm just like, and I'm on there furiously trying to explain to everybody, oh, that triggers me more than anything to go on the pages that say how lucky Randall is and how he has no business being upset. Him meeting his mom, oh, that got me. Where did that come from? That one got me. When he had the dream or vision or whatever it was of meeting his mom. I met my mom in 1983 and my dad in 1986, and they've both passed on, but I have relationships with all of my biological siblings. I had no contact with my adopted mother for the last 12 years of her life, and I'm no longer in contact with my adopted siblings. I was the youngest in my adopted family. I was a foster child that they ended up adopting. My adopted mother had 3 biological children that were hers. And of those 3, one was her favorite. And I was the scapegoat and the black sheep of the family. So, you know, yeah, that relationship with the adopted mother, not so great. But so it's just interesting to see how they've portrayed this all along, and that they keep coming up with other layers. And now with, you know, as many of you have talked about Rebecca having these memory issues, we've had to deal, I've, you know, been dealing with that with my mother-in-law passed away a couple of years ago, but for several years before that, she was, had Alzheimer's, and my father-in-law took excellent care of her. But to see that relationship and dynamic, married 64 years, it's another layer where you know, talk about taking care of your parents, and sometimes you do feel like you're taking care of, like with my father-in-law now, trying to feel like sometimes we are taking care of a big kid who's very stubborn and 3 years old, and he's going to do what he's going to do, and we just have to stand back and let him do that right now. So, but it's hard. Sorry about the tears. I don't know where these came from. I was fine.
Oh, Robin, first of all, I'm going to say with my entire body and being that you don't ever have to apologize for any of the emotions that come up for you. You know, the fact that you felt the feelings and that you did it here with us and we're all supporting you, you know, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing with us. Because it can be very intense. And as Paige has said in the chat, you can feel so many feelings at one time, and society hasn't made us used to that. Society has been giving us this, you either are this or that, kind of black and white thinking.
Right.
You must be either this or that. You can never be more than one thing at one time. And if we're being true to our humanity, we're realizing that that's not true.
Well, and that's, you know, we say that that's another good thing about the show, because I think the show shows that, displays that oftentimes those feelings are not black and white. You can, especially like Randall's love, adoration really of his mother, and at the same time being mad at her about hiding this stuff. It shows those conflicting emotions that we often have. And it's interesting to me that non-adoptees are still trying to do the black and white and can't see that the layering of emotions that are going on, the complexity that's going on in this show. They only see one-dimensional versions on it, which is kind of sad because it's like you're not getting it. You're still not getting it. But anyway, thank you for letting me speak.
Yeah, Lori, Robin, I just want to say I want to live in a world where we're all free to express our emotions and, you know, and feel them, right? Like, let's not like worry about difficult feelings. We're going to be much better off if we all just let ourselves feel them and let ourselves go there. So I thank you for sharing all that with us. Something Lori mentioned earlier, I you know, having gone through this whole experience with my own father, watching him get sick and die and go through all that, you know, the layer of Randall and his mother in all this, and it brought up so much for, I wonder what's going to happen in this storyline of, you know, all of these unresolved issues that Randall has with his mother. You know, Robin, you mentioned, you know, you brought up the whole fact that she hid so much from him for most of his life. And, you know, Barbara and I have talked a lot about how, like, wow, he got over that really quick, you know, you know, he didn't. And we were like, well, there's got to be a hard conversation to come. And now it's like, oh my God, wait, she has plaque growing on her brain. Will they ever be able to have that conversation? And this whole idea too of like how the intensity of feelings and how we're conditioned by society that we're not supposed to feel them. We're not supposed to cry when we're on a Zoom call. We're not supposed to, you know, express ourselves in difficult ways. And I look at Kevin, who's so bottled up, right? Like, I mean, and we saw, and I was talking to Barbara about this earlier today too, you know, here's this guy who doesn't seem to have any feelings for anyone but himself. But as this episode reveals, like, maybe his feelings are just so intense, he doesn't even know what they are anymore. And he cannot break out and express them. So, yeah, it's really interesting to see how the show is kind of like pushing that piece forward and the nuances between what it's like for these biological children to be caring for their parents and going through these experiences, but also for Randall, you know, that moment where he sits in the show and he says, you know, I've lost 3 out of 4 parents. I was like, wow, that's a lot of loss, you know. I've lost 1 parent and I'll only ever lose 2, but losing 4, you know, that's a whole other layer of grief. And I'll stop there. Does anybody else want to weigh in at this point? Or I thought I saw someone's hand up.
Yeah, while that's going on, yeah, Kevin. So anyone who's been on the Zooms with me talking about This Is Us may realize that I have this thing about Kevin that
Kevin.
well, you know, in this season, this first episode actually has expanded my horizons about Kevin based exactly on what Krysia has said. That what if I thought this person who was just obnoxious, it's like, come on, Kevin, don't you realize what's going on? That he actually has more intense feelings and it was difficult for him to process it, you know, because, like, as someone pointed out, the siblings had different ways of processing everything that was going on. And so we understand Randall's reaction, and we, you know, Kate, you know, kind of ate her feelings, truthfully said, right? And then Kevin was like, oh, nothing's bothering me. Pass the macaroni, please. You know. But in fact, he may have had the most intense feelings, and he was just so good at masking them.
Mm-hmm. I thought the scene where he's lying, baby, like the little kids are lying in bed, and he's like, "Yeah, mom and dad are gonna die." And I was like, "Oh, he's got the deepest like feelings." Like Randall's like, "Oh my God, those poor kids who just lost their mom today. We better get them some mac and cheese. Let's save the world." And Kate's like, "Oh, they're closer to heaven," because Kate's got the trying to like stay optimistic while, like you said, she's eating her feelings, and then Kevin's like, "Yeah, my mom and dad are gonna die." Like, I was just like seeing those three kids, and then the parents sitting in their bedroom going, "We handled that great." Like, yeah, okay, guys.
I'm just kind of taking a moment to read in the chat some things that were shared in there.
Barb,
Yes.
I got a direct message. They're asking, wouldn't it be great if the show's writers would write the primal wound into the show? What that would look like.
Primal wound.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And it's I wanted to also answer what someone had asked or said earlier. Yeah, they did have adoptee consultants for the show, as well as writers. And I believe that there was the executive people, a couple of them actually attended a CUB, a Concerned United Birth Parents Conference a few years back, and listened to them in terms of, what they wanted to see in the show. And it seemed like they took those things to heart and incorporated them in a meaningful way. So really hats off to the way that this show has reached out to get expertise in things that they might not have known about.
And Renisha, she has her hand up.
Yes, go ahead, Renisha.
Hi, Renisha, yes. So I just put in the chat, rest in peace, Jazz Waters, which was one of the writers who passed away. Yeah, this I definitely have a love-hate relationship with the show overall. I believe when I first heard about it, I was also in the midst of my own reunion journey at that time. And so just a little piece, since I'm not, don't know most of you here, even though there's one person I do know, hi. But I'm a late discovery adoptee. I found out at the age of 22 of my adoption. And it was not in the best of circumstances. It was kind of in the midst of me having a falling out with my parents about something totally different. But in the midst of that stress, this kind of came out. So I think that, in hindsight, I think if I was not going through that journey, their decision was to probably to keep it a secret, most likely. And so fast forward 20 years, we probably had little to no conversation after that initial conversation, me and my parents. So I kind of felt like I was responsible to keep the secret going, even though it was already out. And, ironically enough, everyone in my immediate family and probably most of the community, small community that I grew up in actually knew. So I was really the only one that didn't know. But related to this show, I probably have the same thoughts about Kevin. I got a little upset because I was like, you know, they're going to write this show to make me kind of want to like him or something. And I'm not going to. I'm just going to resist. You have resistance. So I just, you know, I'm going to resist. I'm still not going to like him for some reason. I'm going to find a reason, even though they're trying to make me be compassionate for him. But that's my own, that's my own thing. This particular, how things are ending for the family, you know, is also really close to heart to me. So I was saying, I mentioned I started a reunion journey because of DNA results. You know, I know a lot of folks do that. That's kind of how they kick things off. In 2017, it was also the same year that my mom passed away from complications with Alzheimer's as well. And so from 2014-ish to 2017, I saw my mom decline and saw her lose, that loss of communication, that loss of connection. And just like, someone mentioned, just as we were watching the show of thinking about Randall and all the conversations that he may not be able to have, or questions that he wouldn't be able to ask, or, being able to further mend that relationship. That's exactly what happened with me. I was never able to, on top of, I live 1,500 miles away. I was never able to have those conversations with my mom. I was never able to get to the crux of her, what was going on with her, things that I needed, things I wanted to probably share with her. So it was really, for me, 2017 was really a mix of emotions, because I'm going through that with my mom. And then I'm also, so she passed away on Christmas Eve, 2017. The week that I was back home in town, dealing with the arrangements and everything on my own, because my dad is also up in age and just thought, his baby girl is going to take care of everything. The week of that, I was also getting messages from Ancestry and 23andMe about cousins and all this other stuff, and trying to navigate that and communicate and try to explain what's going on. Hey, yeah, I know you don't know about me, and all those awkward conversations and all that was happening during the same week. And so it really, it's really just uncovering some of those memories of that time and just how difficult it was. So definitely, I think overall I have a love-hate relationship with the show, just because it is so in my face with a lot of the issues that I've gone through. Even though I was not in a transracial adoption situation, I felt like I did not mirror my parents. We were of the same race, same culture, but I'm about 6 feet tall, and my mom is 5 feet tall. So, and we, I look nothing like them, even though this was a secret. You always have excuses if you try to not look at the obvious. But so yeah, this has been an interesting journey with the show. It took me the longest to actually watch it. I think I probably missed the first 2 seasons, and then played catch up at some point, because I didn't want to go there. So I kind of avoided it. But then I also realized that, emotions are emotions, and it's okay. And sometimes I also need those prompts to help me to feel. And so that's what it kind of played for me.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing a lot of what you said, you know, and especially that last thing about emotional prompts. That's a good way of saying that, because in order to process the feelings that were complex, and I use the word complexicated, the combination of complex and complicated, just because, just like you also outlined, feeling two intensive feelings at the exact same time. The joy of new connections through DNA and the sadness and sorrow of losing a parent. And it's, it almost feels like you can't contain all that at the same time. However, since I've been in this adoption journey, it's almost like the way that you start a new exercise program and you think, oh no, I can't possibly, right, do these moves or get up to the miles or whatever. And then the more you do it, like for this show, the more that you start feeling and responding, then the more that you're able to take on those complexities and deal with them, and realize that you actually can come out alive at the end of it. I mean, one hopes, excuse me, I'm sorry, I hope I didn't trigger anyone, but like, what I mean is that it's a possibility that you can survive, you know, what you thought or what you tried to avoid, that you actually were able to go through it and come out stronger on the other side. And so that there's that. Peter, I believe you had your hand up. Nice to see you.
I didn't have a hand up. I had my thumb up. I was agreeing with.
Oh, it's a thumb. Oh, okay.
But it's okay. Look, I went from 0 to season 4. Yeah, in no time. You know, 3 or 4. Yeah, episodes a night, and then season 5, and Netflix went, no access. I went, what? I brought Netflix so I could watch the series. That none of this is spoiling this for me. This is invigorating me to try and find out how I can actually watch season 5. But yeah, I listened to comments before, and Renisha, 2017 was a big year for me too. That's the year I found out by DNA that I was adopted. So yeah, what I commented in the chat there was, since that time, prior to that time, my wife and I, and was the mainstays of my adoptive parents, and my adopted sister, who's a natural child of the adoptive parents, a younger child, has a huge medical career, and made it very clear to the adoptive parents or adoptive mother that the career came first, which I think it needed to. So yeah, that we were the primary. Yeah, everything in our life was revolved around them, and after that time, I relinquished that and stepped back, and my adopted sister stepped up to the plate, and yeah, my adopted father died in April last year, but the adoptive mother is yeah, she's yeah, very frail and getting frailer by the day. So, but yeah, it's so many mixed emotions and things, and that show definitely brings them up. And I think I was the same as you, Renisha, that I was watching going, I hope they don't do this. And just as I thought they were going to, then it turned around, and I go, sigh of relief that yes, someone got it right, yeah, I found the show fascinating, and I'm yeah, once this is over, I'm going up to look and see if there's another way I can get to view season 5, because I really look forward to watching it and seeing the twists and turns, and especially as it's what you're saying, it's relating now to later life of the adoptive parents and the different reactions to that, So
Absolutely. Yeah, it was difficult to go through, and I want to acknowledge, thank you, Peter, for your contribution, and also that I wanted to acknowledge that there was a question given by Kathy, who's an adoptive parent, in the chat, and she was sharing that she has an 18-year-old that who recently connected with her birth family, but now is distance. And that she's asking the question, and let me see if I can go down, scroll here. A sense of what was helpful to, do any of the adoptees have a sense of what was helpful to you during that phase? Would it be best for me to keep my distance, or are there things I can do to support her that I may not be aware of? I believe that's the rest of that.
Is that a question to me?
That's a question that's open for everyone to answer, because Kathy's an adoptive parent. She's asking adoptees here.
I can answer as a late discovery because mine was 4.5 years ago, and I wish that I had found out 10 years earlier, because I could have. I guess it's the Italian side of me, is I like to argue the point and get emotional and get it out there and get it over and done with, but I haven't been able to do that. I haven't been able to have the conversation. I was too old by the time this all happened. I didn't get any empathy. I didn't get any sympathy. I would never get that. I was never going to get that. And my thing is, if we could have talked about it and got it all out on the table and explained how we felt, and I think it would have looked different now at this stage of life. I would have possibly had a better relationship with them. And the reason we don't have a relationship is not their fault, it's me. I'm the one who feels disconnected. I'm the one who feels uncomfortable in this home, that all those memories I look at from childhood, I no longer, they just remind me of pain, of the lies and deception. So my answer to that is communication and empathy, and trying to understand and build that relationship back. It's but don't be overbearing. Don't think you're owed that relationship. Just be there for them and be empathetic. That's the advice I could say. That's what I didn't get, and so as the time I found out, they were too old and frail to go down that path. I just had to sort of,
And that's difficult, Peter.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're right.
Because I just wanted to really emphasize the fact of the age, and how when we're older and that so much time had gotten lost, where it could have been time that you would have had you known. And it seems like it's more difficult to deal with the deception of not being told than it is about finding out the truth at what, so there's that. And Kathy, I hope you're seeing within the chat that there's many really good, in fact, there's several different ones that I'm trying to keep up with, of responding to what you're saying. Like, for example, I agree with Susan. She says it's not distance, but I always, the chat's going faster than I can handle. But it's just the thought, what she said is that we want to be protective of our adoptive parents, and that we want them to always know that they're great. We're grateful for them raising us. We're grateful for everything they did for us. But one thing they could never do, is be the biological parents. As much, and I don't mean that in a cruel way. It's just the fact that there are other people that have contributed to us being here. So we have to process that. And we also have to have the opportunity to do that and be validated for doing so. And, not feel, and the fact that we feel the hurt and the pain, or, the sense of betrayal, or whatever negative emotions that possibly adoptive parents can have. And again, you may, as an adoptive parent, may not have that. So Krysia, you can chime in on that too. But you know, but that's the way we perceive it, like as an adoptee, because we're trying to protect and be there for everyone, just like Randall is in This Is Us. He's trying to do, you know, be Randall the rescuer, you know, Randall adoptee is, you know, we're there to do whatever we need to do in order to make sure everybody else is okay. So it may involve that she's conflicted, and there's a couple of people who said, you know, to feel validated, to feel like they can, you know, talk about, you know, their feelings with their adoptive parent without them being, you know, getting the negative feedback or the negativity would be wonderful. So that's part of it. And then please chime in what I could not get to here.
You know, before we started answering Kathy's question, I noticed that Jennifer also had her hand up. I don't know if you still want to,
Yeah, Jennifer, I'm so sorry that I did not see that.
No, I just want to make sure we got to Jennifer before we had to, like, you know, goodbye.
Yes. No, for real, that's true. And thank you, Jennifer, for being here. Yeah, go ahead with that question that she asked.
Yeah, well, thank you, Krysia. That was really nice. I put my hand down because I was like, I just want to listen. Yeah,
okay.
But the only thing I was going to say, because we were talking, hello everybody. Like I just love you all so much. And I was just thinking when we were talking about losing parents, you know, like the other day I was unpacking the fact that I took 8 years to go to like embark upon search and reunion. And for many years, I thought it was because, oh, my adoptive mom didn't want me to search. She didn't want me to search, so I'm not going to do it. But just the other day, listening to another adoptee, I unpacked the fact that I was actually grieving over those 8 years, grieving over the loss of parent after parent after parent. You know, like I was like for 4 days parentless, right? Like from birth for 4 days in the hospital or wherever I was parentless. And then I was in foster care and left there and was parentless from those, like I lost those parents. And then when my adoptive parents passed, I'm again parentless. And I was unpacking the other day that as adoptees, we are like parentless more than normal, you know, like it just hit me that the grief is so deep for us, you know? So that's what I wanted to add. And it's a lifelong journey of healing for I think all of us. I know for me, just kind of unpacking what happened, you know, that's what I wanted to add, so.
Thank you, Jennifer, for that. And that's a really very valid, you know, very important thing to say. You're right. I mean, to think about just the basic thing of parenting, that what we had to, it wasn't a straightforward line for us. You know, it came with trauma and we didn't ask for it, but we had to deal with it in our own ways, just much like the way that, Pearsons, they had to deal with the loss of their father at a young age, and they all had to deal with it in their own way. And, you know, there was no, as we are looking at the show and we continue to, there's no right or wrong way to really deal with feelings and stuff. But, you know, we've seen some maladaptive ways, but unfortunately, it's like we still have to go through them, we still have to process them. And hopefully as we do that, we end up better for doing that, better for for taking the journey to do that. And I'd like to, we're about ready to start winding down, but Bruce, I loved what you said about what Anne Heffron, who's a wonderful contributor to the adoptive community with the book, You Don't Look Adopted. And, you know, she wanted to be held, like she wanted her adoptive mom to just hold her and you know, and comfort her during this time that she was having her feelings, but she never got that. And that's something that would make anybody sad, right? You just want to feel like somebody cares about how you're feeling.
Barb, can I add one thing to what Jennifer said and also what Bruce shared? I had a moment like that with my daughter when some of you know a little bit of my story, when I met the adoptive mom after 30 years. And that Jessie, my daughter, actually took her hand and put our hands together. And she said she wanted us both just listen to me. Just let me talk. And of course, we were all hysterical and we were all crying and everything. She says, let me grieve both of you. And I thought that was so profound because I wasn't expecting that. And her adopted mom, because she had her own issues, but it was just a really defining moment for the three of us. I just wanted to share that. That's important. It's really that we hear you.
Thank you, Marcie. Thank you.
Really powerful.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have time for Adam had his hand up, so I think we should take time for one more before we wind down. Does that work?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Crystal. I just want to say, you know, I'm really happy, as profound and as deep as this group is. It's really needed because, I mean, I'm 27 and I'm young, but I think as an adoptee, just getting to this point of being in this kind of space and listening to everybody talk and, you know, share, I dreamed of getting to that place, but, you know, you just go through so many conflicted feelings of, you know, acknowledging that you are adopted as one, but then two, what that journey could look like if you're willing to go and find those spaces to heal and to grow and to ask questions and to listen. So I just want to say thank you that I came across this on Facebook, that you guys provided this space, because I don't know what's next, but I just know this is really good for me. I'm based in Tennessee, but I went through my adoption journey as far as exploring and finding some of my biological family members. And I've heard you guys share about several of your biological parents that passed, and my heart goes out to you guys. But what I thought about is, I'm sure that's difficult to go through because there may be that, you know, opportunity missed or whatever closure that's not there. But I'm wondering, you know, I have both of my biological parents alive right now. And one of the hardest things I've had to accept is whatever expectations, whatever, you know, whatever things I wanted to get from them as far as a connection has not happened. And so, you know, that it's like they're still alive and you have to deal with that reality of they're still alive. You know, they know who you are. And, you know, you've just had some bumps and just heartbreaks and things that have just not really gone as the way that you would have wanted them to go, because none of it's perfect. But it feels really good to be a part of this group, because it's like, even though I know that they're there, I hope and pray that, you know, as long as I'm alive and they're alive, you know, I believe in a higher power, I believe in God, you know, that could be a possibility where whatever it is that we want can be together, and that they just, you know, can come and understand that all that baggage, all that stuff, yeah, we don't really want it. We don't really want to have it. I don't know, they don't want to have whatever they have, but I'm grateful for the fact that I'm in a place to be able to just find people like you guys who are talking about this, who, you know, you chose to be here. We chose to be in this kind of space together, and learn and listen and have empathy. So I can't really predict or really, you know, control any of my biological family members or any of the connections that I have with family. They all have their own things. They all have their own processing to do. But I know for me, I'm in the journey. I'm in it. I'm here and I'm present for it. And I want to keep learning and listening to other people. So I just want to say thank you, for this space.
Adam, you're so wise. Thank you.
Yeah. Mic drop. Thank you, Adam, for saying what you did. And, we're glad to be here for you, for many, many others like you. We're glad you found this space. And as long as there's life, as long as we're above the ground, there's always the opportunity for change. Like, I went myself personally from a parent that was not choosing to meet to when they did meet, and we had a wonderful 4-year relationship before my mother, she wound up passing away. And it was healing for both of us. It wasn't always, like the healing is hard sometimes because the emotions, as we discussed here. But the fact that she was willing to go through that same journey with me at the same time, for the time we had, priceless. So, all right, well, before I become the Klimt, talk amongst yourselves. The topic, Krysia, I'm gonna throw it to you.
This is my first time coming to this happy hour. And when Barbara told me that these have been going on every week, I was like, damn, I could have been doing this every week. And I took it very literally. I've got my glass of wine here. So I just echo, Adam, this is a wonderful group, and I'm glad that I came tonight and was here for it. So I'm definitely planning to come back again. And are they every Friday, Marcie, at 7? Okay. And then I'm also going to put in the chat, we didn't even get to talk about our other planned topic that Barbara and I spent a couple of hours talking about, which was Randall the Rescuer. We didn't even get to that. But we can get to that if you join us at our Facilitated Discussions with Adoption Network Cleveland. Our next one is going to be on the 31st, and I'm dumping the link into the chat here so you can find it. And hopefully you'll be able to join us there too. We're going to dive a little deeper into different themes from the show. And I definitely want to thank everybody for being a part of this group. I mean, this show is it's a very triggering show. And I'm not an adoptee, and it's been very triggering for me, as a sibling, as a parent, as a daughter. And, so I thank you all for being here with us and talking with us and kind of sticking through the show, because I think it does brings up a lot, and it puts us through some hard paces, but maybe we're better off for it, I hope. And if nothing else, it brought us all together into this space. So.
Well, thank you both so much. I mean, we really appreciate both of you joining us this evening, and it was such a special, special happy hour. And I couldn't think of a better way to kick off the beginning of a new year, right? Than to talk about this. It does bring us together, and that's one of the reasons why we're here every Friday night. And Adam, we appreciate what you shared. Well, you know what, all of you have shared here. We want to continue to keep the space here for you that's safe, that you feel that you can be vulnerable, and that you're loved here, and that your voice matters. We'll continue to be here every Friday night. Jennifer likes to get the invitations out on Mondays. You watch your email, you'll get an invitation. Once you attend, you'll also continue to get an invitation to future happy hours. We do have some other support groups as well. Some of you have asked us about that, which I'm just getting ready to share a little bit about. But again, I just wanted to say thank you so much to all of you. And NAAP really does appreciate you and coming to see us every Friday night. It's just great. That's why we're here, right, Barb? This is why we do it. This is why we do it. Give yourselves a round of applause. Okay, get your hands up. Get your hands up. Give yourselves